Imagine living on the edge, literally. In today's video, we're taking you on a thrilling journey to explore the most dangerous and riskiest houses around the world. Hi everyone, Shai here. I hope all of you are doing good. Welcome to another new video. From cliffside homes hanging thousands of feet above the ground to isolated islands where nature reigns supreme, these jaw-dropping places will leave you questioning how anyone could live there. Get ready for an adventure where breathtaking views meet incredible risks. So, here are some of the most riskiest houses in the world. Number 1. Cliff Village. Living remotely can be frustrating when you must travel dozens of miles by car to get to the nearest store. But spare a thought for some 80 families living in Achilea Village in southwest China's Sichuan province. Here, families live 800 meters above the ground at an altitude of 1,400 meters. The only way they could access everyday amenities was by climbing up and down the 17 rattan ladders. School children used to have to navigate these by themselves every day just to get to school on the lower mountain. These ladders were also the only way for living remotely. Local villagers said that at least 8 people have died using the ladders, and several more have fallen and sustained injuries. After photographer and journalist Chen Ji published a report in 2016 called A Village on a Cliff, the central government and local government decided to act. They installed a steel ladder with rails to make the villagers' commute to civilization much easier. By 2020, most families had been relocated to housing estates with new apartments ranging from 25 square meters to 100 square meters. They all have modern kitchens, toilets, electricity, gas, and running water. While about 30 families chose to stay behind, the others were thrilled with their new living situations closer to the town center. Number 2. Korowai Tribe Tree Houses. You might say your house has a pleasant view because you can see a few trees from each room, but imagine seeing the top of an entire forest from your living room. That's the reality for the Korowai tribe, a group living in the inaccessible jungles of Papua in Indonesia. This tribe lives about 150 kilometers from the Arafura Sea and has been totally isolated from the rest of the world for decades. They are hunter-gatherers, surviving off the land, and weren't discovered by Dutch missionaries until 1974. Up until then, they had minimal contact with the outside world. The more we learned about them, the more amazed we were. They live in tree houses they build themselves, ranging from 6 meters to 35 meters off the ground. They make their homes from a single tree but typically have the house base supported by several living trees and wooden poles. It's believed that they build their homes this high up to protect them from mosquitoes, evil spirits, and annoying neighbors. They start with a strong banyan tree and knock the top off it. They make floor frames from branches and cover them in sago palms. Next, they make the walls and roofs using the same leaves as the floors. The wall frames feature branches tied with rattan bindings. While the Korowai tribe still lives an isolated existence, they have somewhat embraced tourists, with some of them working with tour companies to earn money. Number 3. Falling Water House. The Falling Water House near Mill Run in southwestern Pennsylvania looks like something we could only build with today's technology. But believe it or not, this beautiful home, built over a waterfall, was designed by American architect Frank Lloyd Wright back in the 1930s. The home was then built in 1937 for the Kaufman family. Perhaps not surprisingly, the unique design of this home truly highlighted Frank's skills, even though he was nearing retirement. The house became one of the most famous builds of the 20th century. Department store tycoon Edgar Kaufman and his wife Lillian commissioned Frank to design the house so they could use it as a weekend retreat on their land southeast of Pittsburgh. They had dreams of their home having views of the waterfall, but were shocked when Frank showed them plans with the house being directly above it. Frank said he wanted to bring the falls into the Kaufman family's everyday life. This way, they could always hear the waters and be aware of its presence. Years later, Edgar Kaufman entrusted the building and the land to the Western Pennsylvania Conservancy. In 1964, Falling Water House opened as a museum and now welcomes about 150,000 visitors annually. In 2019, it became a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Before moving on to the next point, I'd like to take a moment to introduce you all to my merchandise. You can support my content by getting your favorite products from my store or by simply joining my channel. Your support means a lot to me. Now, let's get back to the video. Number 4. Habitat. There just doesn't seem to be a way to make apartment buildings attractive. They are big, bulky boxes filled with windows. But Moshe Safdie tried to change that. While an architecture student at McGill University, he wrote a report about three-dimensional modular building systems. His goal was to have us rethink urban habitats. That's how he came up with Habitat 67, a government-sponsored experimental urban residential complex and easily one of the most standout buildings of the 1960s. Habitat 67 consists of 354 concrete boxes connected together. Each box is around 600 square feet and weighs 90 tons. Rather than being stacked on top of each other like a standard apartment building, the boxes are stepped and stacked almost like a pyramid while rising 12 stories in the air. Moshe wanted 1,000 units, but he ended up with 158. They're serviced by 3 elevators, with pedestrian streets on every 4th floor, and have prefabricated parts like pre-assembled kitchens and fiberglass bathrooms. Habitat 67 was fraught with problems from day one, especially the expensive maintenance costs. They also weren't desirable as rentals due to their costs. However, their desirability skyrocketed once they were sold off as private residences. Now, you could spend upwards of $1 million to own 1 or 2 of the apartments within Habitat 67. Number 5. Takasugi-an. If you're tired of door-to-door salespeople trying to sell you vacuum cleaners and magazine subscriptions, plan a move to Takasugi-an. Takasugi-an is a tea house in Shiga, Nagano Prefecture, Japan, that roughly translates to a tea house built to high. That's pretty accurate. It's so high up in the air that it's only accessible by freestanding ladders leaned up against it. I'd like to see a salesperson lug their briefcase up there. Architect Terunobu Fujimori built the tea house on 2 massive chestnut trees. They were brought to the site in Chino from a nearby mountain. He built the tea house for his own use and covered the interior with plaster and bamboo mats. It's so small that it only has enough space for 4.5 tatami mats. Upon climbing up to the tea house, guests take their shoes off at the midway point. They can then take a seat inside on one of the mats and enjoy a bird's-eye view of the town through the large window, which is positioned in the direction of the town where the architect grew up. Number 6. Tsutchi. Have you ever seen the burrow in the Harry Potter series? It was a crooked house with random room additions, seemingly held together by magic. The Tsutchi-geen House in Arkhangelsk, Russia, doesn't look much different. It's believed to be the tallest wooden house, with 13 floors measuring a whopping 144 feet, about half the height of Big Ben. Nikolai Tsutchi-geen started building his house in 1992. He only intended to make it 2 stories, larger than surrounding homes, to make it known that he was the richest man in the city. But after seeing wooden houses in Japan and Norway, Nikolai decided that he hadn't finished building. He wanted to use the roof space more efficiently, so he added 3 more floors. When he finished, he said the house looked quite ungainly, almost like a mushroom. So, he added another. It still didn't look right, so he continued until the house was 13 stories tall. Nikolai said the Tsutchi-geen House is a happy accident. But alongside wanting to make his house look aesthetically pleasing, he also wanted to make it more welcoming. He grew up in a Soviet communal flat and felt lonely by himself. Having more room would mean he could welcome his construction company's executives to stay with him. In 1998, Nikolai went to prison on racketeering charges. While in prison, his rivals stole all his money and possessions, leaving him penniless. Now, he lives in 4 poorly heated rooms in the Tsutchi-geen House with his wife, while the rest of his house decays around him. Number 7. Kio Towers. If you're afraid of heights, you definitely wouldn't want to live in the Kio Towers, also known as the Gate of Europe Towers. They are twin office buildings in Madrid, Spain, towering 114 meters in the air. Each tower has 26 floors. The Kio Towers underwent construction in 1989 and were finished in 1996. After they were finished, they became the 2nd tallest twin towers in Spain. American architects Philip Johnson and John Berge were responsible for their design, with the construction company Fomento di Construcciones CA bringing them to life. Given the lean they're on, you probably guessed that structural engineers were involved. Leslie E. Roberts and Associates were responsible for structural engineering, as both buildings have a 15-degree incline. They were the very first inclined skyscrapers in the world. While the buildings are well known in Spain, you might have seen them featured on TV. They were seen in the 1995 film The Day of the Beast before they were finished, and in an episode of Mickey and the Roadster Racers. So that was all for today. I hope you have watched the video up to this timestamp. Make sure to press the like button if it amazed you. Press the subscribe button if you still haven't subscribed to the channel, as it's totally free. You can follow me on all social media platforms. All links are given in the description. You can also watch other cool stuff. The playlist link is also mentioned in the description. I will catch you up soon in the next video. Till then, peace out.